9 short interviews, one business leader, one question and one perspective at a time. We share with you here their perspectives on resilience, response, learning and recovery. Firstly, in the African context, how foreseeable was another pandemic and how prepared was corporate Africa? Secondly, what were the corporate, industry and country successes and constraints that you observed in the Africa response? And what lessons have you learned? And thirdly, what are the risks and opportunities for Africa's post-COVID-19 recovery? And how can corporate Africa be better prepared for the next disruptive event? And so now on to our second respondent, Stanley Tsikirayi, on the second question, which is about Africa's response to COVID-19 and the successes, constraints, and lessons learned. Stanley Tsikirayi, a banker with over 40 years' experience and a seasoned board-level practitioner with extensive senior management experience in financial services in Eastern, Western, and Southern Africa.
There were various successes and also constraints in the various responses to COVID-19 from corporates, the industry, different countries, and of course, lessons learned in this regard as well. Speed of response was a success as most organizations were able to relook, review their plans, come up with short and medium and long-term impact analysis plans so to be able to manage. Well, I recall seeing a lot of worst case and best case scenarios that needed to be formulated, stress tests being done to manage the likely risks such as liquidity, credit, capital adequacy, and various other risks. Government responded quite swiftly in most cases with measures such as lockdowns, encouraging their people to practice hygiene, such as regular washing of hands, sanitizing surfaces, and of course the famous physical distancing that we all talk about now. Wearing of face masks, encouraging people to work from home, which was something that was new, especially in Africa, and tracking and tracing of those that were infected. This helped to slow down the virus and to allow government to have more time to build capacity, be it in terms of equipment like PPE or equipment that was needed in the actual various hospitals. Most banks were able to successfully restructure clients' loans, give them more time to pay, waive some fees, and we saw a lot of industry associations working together, be it labor also, pushing for them to be heard in terms of the responses that were needed on COVID. Those governments that had strong leadership, led by example, were honest with their people. We saw how quickly they were able to control the virus. And of course, there's been challenges for Africa. It's exposed, its health systems, and governments have actually learned the need to invest more into the health sector to prevent future outbreaks. And crisis management plans need to be revamped quite often to be able to do this.
And so overall on this question, Stanley gives Africa a positive rating. He first of all credits government for taking the leadership and taking the leadership early in response to the pandemic, but makes the point that corporate Africa was particularly swift in its response and in putting in place various contingency plans. And as far as the lessons learned were concerned, Stanley feels that the big lesson was in the health sector, because the pandemic exposed certain gaps and weaknesses in our health systems, and that was an important wake-up call for many governments.